More reforms and more opportunities in the labor market. These are the changes experts think the country needs to spur foreign direct investment in the Philippines, which have lagged behind other Asian countries. Speakers from the public and private sectors will address the issue as they gather for the third anniversary forum of Arangkada, Philippines. Now, to tell us more about this are Rick Jennings, the president of the American Chamber of Commerce of the Philippines and managing director of FedEx Philippines, and Mr. Ian Porter, Australian New Zealand Chamber of Commerce in the Philippines and country manager of Cardno. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us. Okay, let's talk about the forum first. What is it about? This is the third time you're going to be holding it, but why hold the forum?
We have the Arangkada Forum each year to track the progress among 471 recommendations that were made in 2010. And this is across seven key industries. So ranging from mining, tourism, healthcare, services, mining, and the purpose of this is, you know, the Arangkada was developed out of the Joint Foreign Chambers. We and together, along with 300 interested parties, came up with a number of recommendations to greatly expand the economy, add jobs, add expansion, and so we want to see how are we progressing on these goals.
So 471 recommendations that were made during the first forum, and the succeeding forums you've been monitoring how they have been. Is that correct?
Yeah, we monitor all of those recommendations continually, and then each year we bring all of those recommendations together and we make an assessment as to how the government has performed in carrying out those recommendations. For example, last year 65% of all of the recommendations were making progress, so that's relatively good. But then you think 35 weren't making progress or had come to a standstill. We would expect probably the same sort of trend for this year.
Really?
But remember, we don't weight them, so we don't. We in this forum we treat all the recommendations as equal. Whereas, so it's not necessarily an indication of how well the economy is doing in all of those areas. But we concentrate, as Rick said, on 7 what we call major winners for the economy. And we know that some of those have been going very well, and others not so well.
Okay, I'm curious about the recommendations, but let's clarify this first. Who are the recommendations for? These are for the president, for government officials?
It's a mix. So some of these are legislative agenda items. Some are policy issues for the president or for his cabinet. And for example, when we have seen the Labor Secretary Baldo's, we've seen Secretary Baldo's, she actually takes all of the recommendations under her area, and she does a little scorecard for us to say,
That's nice to hear.
Here's how my cabinet, or here's how my department is performing on your recommendations. And that's, which is very, very helpful, and I certainly applaud her for her leadership and efforts.
Okay, the theme for this year is more reforms equals more jobs. Now, what are the reforms that we're talking about? What are the recommendations that you've successfully implemented or successfully endorsed to the government agencies in different sectors, and they have completed that? Give us a sample of those recommendations of reforms.
So, for example, making it easier to do business in the Philippines. So, just registering a business can be daunting.
Right, we had that problem.
Bill Luce with the National Competitiveness Council has been the champion of this, to work with all of the different rankings, to work with a number of the government departments to eliminate barriers where possible, and in fact the Philippines has made great progress on taking steps out of setting up the business. So that would be a very simple one. Another one, eliminating unnecessary taxes. For example, the common carriers tax on foreign airlines and shipping. It was reduced for, or it was eliminated, abolished for passengers, and that's a 3% charge that's taken off of those tickets. So it's easier for more tourists to come in at a reasonable cost. we're still pressing for that to be abolished for airlines and for ocean shipping, because again, it just adds cost unnecessarily to the Philippines.
Good samples, but where do you get those recommendations? Is it just limited to the members of the Joint Foreign Chambers? You get together and you make those recommendations?
No, we started the process with a lot of focus groups covering wide areas, from economists to people from universities, researchers, the private sector outside of the Joint Foreign Chambers. So we had a very, very diverse range of people coming together to put those recommendations on paper in those 7 areas where we think the 7 biggest winners are for the Philippines. So that's an ongoing process. So now that we're having this meeting later this month, we'll go through that same process for a whole range of different people with different expertise to come together and make a judgment about the progress or lack of progress in terms of those specific recommendations.
Okay, let's go back to the theme, more reforms equals more jobs. And we were talking about this off air. We have the Philippine growth story that everyone's talking about here, and a forecast of maybe a stable 7% for the whole year this year. But we still have reports, and a lot of people are saying this, that although the economy is doing good, it's not being felt by a lot of people.
Yeah.
How does the government make the masses feel the growth of the country?
There's been a lot of talk about the trickle-down effect. It takes a long time to trickle down. But 7% for us is not enough. Our recommendation is that the economy should grow by 9%.
Really?
But it needs to grow by 9% for many, many years. And then it has a major impact. And the thing about employment is that manufacturing really drives employment. And the Philippines has had a very good year in terms of the increase in manufacturing, but the increase has been very narrow. It's narrowly based. And what we need is manufacturing right across the board. There are big opportunities now because a lot of the manufacturers are international, are moving out of places like China because of high costs. Now the Philippines has to get those people here. And that means...
Why can't we get those people here?
Well, there are a lot of barriers to foreign direct investment in the Philippines. The court system, for example, people investing here are scared that they'll finish up in the courts. And the courts have made some decisions recently which have had a big impact on the way that investors see the Philippines. There's also the question of the economic provisions of the Constitution.
Specifically foreign ownership?
60-40 rule, those sorts. And there's been some decisions by the Supreme Court which have reinforced the idea that foreigners are not really welcome, and unless they partner with a Philippine company at 60-40.
And we have a president who's not really warm to that idea.
Well, I would hope that given the support in Congress, the support by almost all major business organisations, not just the foreign chambers, but local business organisations, the support by famous economists from universities and from a lot of people, that the president might come to see, with the enormous support he has. The enormous support and respect from the people of the Philippines, from business, from the Congress. I would hope that the president would relook at that, because it really would make a major impact on foreign investment. The Philippines has done quite well, in a sense, in increasing foreign investment, but it's still half of what its major neighbours receive. So it's very, very low, and it needs to more than double.
Mr. Jennings, you share the same view?
I do, and you're talking about how do we get the economic benefits down to the people, and you look at I think the Social Weather Station has said that there's still 30% poverty. It hasn't moved during the president's administration, and I'm sure this is troubling. And so how do we do that? And as Ian has pointed out, manufacturing is a tremendous opportunity, particularly for if you were to set up areas in the provinces for lower cost manufacturing, and to take some of those jobs back that have gone away in years past to areas like China or to India, but you know, to have some flexibility on minimum wage, to have some way to provide lower cost power. You know, you could set up zones and create opportunities for you know, for thousands and thousands of people in manufacturing today. And as Ian had pointed out, it is narrow that manufacturing contributes to about 19% of the GDP. You know, it you know, can be grown to 25, 26%. You know, a bigger share, which would create jobs. I think the other thing I had pointed out, you were talking about the ease of doing business, and you know, the fact that anything to drive more small, medium business as well, because that's a generator of jobs. You know, but the cost for importation into the country is tremendous, and the administrative burden. I think many people throw up their arms and give up, both for small, medium Filipino companies as well as foreign companies. And so there's a bill in Congress right now for the Customs Modernization and Tariff Act, which is sorely needed in order to update the laws, which are principally from the 1950s.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting points that you've raised, and I'm sure you'll be talking about more recommendations and more reforms on the forum. That's going to be held on February 26th at the Rizal Ballroom of the Makati Shangri-La Hotel. Who can attend? Anyone can attend? Anyone can attend,
yes. So it's open to all. There will be, so it will go from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. We're hoping the president will be there and close it off. He was with us 2 years ago, and so it's you know, we're going to have people like Lilia de Lima with PEZA. You know, and her organization is she's been there across 4 administrations. Today they have over 1 million jobs in PEZA locations, over 800 locations. So she's a champion, and so I'm very interested to hear from her. I mentioned Bill Luz will be one of the speakers as well. We will have the Chief Justice joining us, and so it will be a tremendous event.
Okay, Mr. Rick Jennings and Mr. Ian Porter, thank you very much for joining us here in the studio.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.